Good morning. Oh, yeah, good morning. It's still morning. Welcome to worship with the community of Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. My name is Tanner Trask, and I will be your worship leader this morning. I'm glad you are joining us for the service today. It's my hope that this gathering will renew your sense of community and connection and nourish your heart, mind, and spirit. Thank you to our AV team volunteers today, our host Caroline Nixon, our co-hosts Ken Lysing and Cindy Fountain. Special thanks, as always, to Dr. Yuki Kumamoto for selecting and playing beautiful music throughout the service, as well as our loyal Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Nikki Kennedy, for her selection and execution of our Time for All Ages. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they are an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to be radically inclusive and to adopt a multi-generational worship, where our services include all family members. So welcome to all children and youth of all ages. Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural, racial, and class backgrounds, a community of varied abilities and gifts. Some here find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. And if you are so moved, and if you haven't already, you can try out the chat feature on Zoom by typing in some words of welcome to both members and visitors who are joining us this morning. And on behalf of this church community, I say to you all, welcome. I invite you to take a deep breath and from wherever you are, settle into this sacred space that we create together. Now let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude. All right, thank you. Oops, video didn't come on. There we go. Our opening words are from Reverend Leslie Takahashi, entitled Call to Worship for Stewardship Sunday. To worship means to consider that which has worth. Today we consider, with gratitude, the many gifts of this community. The opportunity to be affirmed in who we are and to offer that affirmation to others. The chance to stand up together to help remake the world in the ideal of justice. The freedom to choose one's own path to truth and to learn from the travelogues of others. The space to expand one's own spirit and to reconnect after busy or humdrum weeks with the sustaining truths of one's life. Regular reminders that we must see our world through the lens of love and the aspiration to consider all life as precious, for if it is all made of stardust, how can it not be wondrous? So this morning, let's welcome all of these gifts with gratitude, for they have been paid for with many currencies. The blood of martyrs who died so that we can be free in our religion, the sweat of those who persisted in justice's name against hostility and adversity, the tears of those who struggled to build better lives for those in this life, the questions of our children as they understand the world anew and offer their understandings to us as a fresh lens, the laughter and joy of those giddy with the embrace of community, the dollars and cents of those who gave what they could, the infinite small acts of service that make the parts greater than the whole, done by those who knew themselves in sympathy with our purposes. So today, we consider with gratitude and humility what it means to pay forward what has been paid forward for us. And now, with all of this, let us enter into worship with gladness in our hearts. Our opening hymn this morning is number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, borrowed from the UU congregation in Santa Monica.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
The flaming chalice is our Unitarian Universalist symbol of both the heritage of our past and the light of hope within this congregation today. Join me in lighting your chalice at home to the words of Katie Gelfand, the Director of Religious Exploration of First UU of New Orleans. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another. And we offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. Our chalice lighting song this morning is Be the Light by Leah Morris.
There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always a light. There is always a light. We are ready to see it. There is always a light. There is always in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a climb this hill. Together we will. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. Be the light.
And I love that version. Anyway, please join our kids in reciting our affirmation.
Love is the doctrine of this church. Quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace. Seek knowledge and freedom.
To serve others in community.
To the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation.
Thus do we covenant with one another.
All right, and our time for all ages today will be presented by our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Nikki Kennedy.
Good morning, Westsiders, and welcome to Stewardship Sunday. How fitting it is that our Stewardship Sunday is also the first Sunday of May, with the Soul Matters curriculum theme being story. After all, the stewardship season is a time when sharing the Westside story is important. Stories are powerful. They help tell us who we are. They tell others who we are, and they tell what we believe. More importantly, the stories we tell about and to ourselves reveal what we believe about ourselves and demonstrate what it is that we want to be known. We're going to talk a little bit about lemons today and their story, and I have some friends to help me out. Why don't you check out their reactions to eating some lemons? As we share pieces of the Westside story and why this community matters, why this community is needed, and how this community is making a difference, we're always sharing pieces of Westside that include who we are as a family, who we are as anti-racists, who we are as living and interconnected beings, and who we are as people of courage. As I think about the last year and a half or so, adventure is definitely one of the words I would use to describe the time. The adventures have been incredible, but the incredible part is really because of the people sharing in these adventures. Creating a community has happened because so many people with different gifts have worked together, seeing a goal bigger than any one of us. A place where we were all welcomed, a space for seekers, a place for all ages to gather. Creating such a community really needs everyone sharing what they can.
The most important things to me about being in the Westside community is the kids library, the people, and the classes. Well, reading is fun for most kids.
Reading is fun?
Yeah, and we can learn when we read Everyone at Westside is nice, no matter what you ask them. They'll always be nice about what they say. There's always a fun activity in them. And we get to spend more time with our friends. Two of my favorite memories of this past year during quarantine church is when we did the Charlie Brown play and I got to be Lioness, and when we in classes we did a magic trick where we fold paper into a tube, then pull string out of it without anyone knowing how we did it.
Awesome. The library.
The library?
Yeah, it's also close to this place because I can read there, and also because it gets me away from everyone. I like that Westside lets me choose my own belief.
Just like the lemons, they're kind of sour and not too tasty by themselves, but when you mix them with the right ingredients to make some lemonade, it's amazing what can happen. You heard them talk about the reasons why they're so thankful for the Westside community. Westside, please help be a part of this community. Share what you can when you can, and let us help keep creating a space for all.
All right, thank you, Nikki, and our friends, and a special thank you to the taste buds of our friends there. And that was great. So today our joys and concerns will be shared by Kelly Flanagan, a representative of our pastoral care team.
Good morning, everybody. As we share our joys with others, those joys are multiplied. When other hearts know our joy shines all the brighter. As we share our concerns, our community can offer its care. When other hearts know our sorrow, our burden becomes lighter. This is the time in our service when we offer witness and support for one another's journeys. Please post in the chat if you have a joy or concern you would like to share with everyone today and those who will watch the recording. I apologize. Apparently I was muted. Let's start again. As we share our joys with others, those joys are multiplied. When other hearts know our joy shines all the brighter. As we share our concerns, our community can offer its care. When other hearts know our sorrow, our burden becomes lighter. This is the time in our service when we offer witness and support for one another's journeys. Please post in the chat if you have a joy or concern you would like to share with everyone today and those who will watch the recording later. Joys and concerns can be submitted at any time via email to pastoralcare@westsideuu.org or through the web form located on the care and support page of our church's website. This week's joys and concerns include, we have a joy from Carol Kappa. Congratulations to Wendy Casper for being elected into the Academy of Distinguished Scholars at UTA. Her husband, Roger Duvall, posted this in Facebook. This accomplishment represents the most prestigious research and scholarship award at UTA and includes the permanent title Distinguished University Professor. So way to go, Wendy. We have another joy from Charlie Ford. I am working again. Therapy went well and I'm out in the world again. Great. And we have a concern from Sharon Sala. Jan, a close friend of my son's, is experiencing some serious health problems right now, and I'm very concerned for her. A joy from Michael Munoz. Oliver said he had a great birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Oliver. Oh, and a joy from Matthew, Rachel, and Andre. Andre, it's a joy. Andre turned 3 on Tuesday. What a great age. You go, Andre. We have, I think this is a joy from Sue Anderson. My daughter played her last high school softball game yesterday. Proud of her, but also sad to not be able to watch her play anymore. I guess that's a joy and a concern. Thank you for sharing those with us. It is good to share with one another as sharing draws our community closer together. Please know that our pastoral care associates are available to support you with deep listening and, when needed, through our InReach Fund for short-term financial support of members in need. We are here for you.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Diane Austin will lead our shared meditation after this morning's rendition of Meditation on Breathing, created by Leah Davis from the First Unitarian Society in Denver.
I invite you to join me in a time of centering. Each week here at Westside, we open our hearts to those in our community who know both joys and challenges, and to all suffering beings. I will begin with a brief pastoral introduction before we move into a time for silent reflection. I will ring a bell to signal the start of the time for your own meditation, prayer, or reflection, and I will ring the bell again at the end. I invite you and your families to close your eyes and check the alignment of your spine as I begin. I will share our meditation with words from Andre Moll entitled, "All That We Share is Sacred." As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other, because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until we are all welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Thank you, Diane. Good morning to you all. Westside's plate offering for May is Texas Civil Rights Project. Its mission: we are Texas lawyers and advocates for Texas communities, boldly serving the movement for equality and justice in and out of courts. Sorry for my dog, there's a kitten outside, I apologize. Its vision: we envision a Texas where all communities thrive with dignity and justice and without fear. Its theory of change: Texas Civil Rights Project believes that legal advocacy and litigation are critical tools to protect and advance the civil rights of everyone in Texas, particularly our state's most vulnerable populations, and to effect positive and lasting change to law and policy. We believe that by serving the rising social justice movement in Texas with excellent legal representation and bold strategies, we can respond to the needs of the communities we serve. Texas Civil Rights Project focuses on 3 areas: criminal injustice, racial and economic justice, and voting rights. Immigrant and borderland communities are also a focus as they intersect with both criminal injustice and racial and economic justice. The Texas Civil Rights Project facilitates the Texas Election Protection Coalition of the nationwide 866 Our Vote project. Westside member Cindy Fountain was a volunteer in this project during the November 2020 election. If the extreme voter suppression bills become law in Texas, this movement will become even more imperative. Please support a cause that embraces the same justice issues that are important to us at Westside. You can give online now through the church's giving page or by using the Give Plus app and select the Service Project Fund. The link will be put in the chat. You can also mail a check to the church. Thank you for your offering and enjoy this musical offering from our very talented pianist, Yuki Kumamoto.
Thank you again for your generosity. This morning's reading is a favorite of ours here with the worship team. It is Laura Mancuso's My Commitments to Myself. I take care of myself first because I am deserving of exquisite care. I take care of myself to maintain the capacity to help others. I move and stretch my body every day. I spend time in nature, attuning my senses to the earth's wisdom. I ration my daily exposure to the news. I identify and access credible sources of information. I protect myself from becoming overwhelmed by information about the pandemic. I pace myself. I sit with the reality of uncertainty and impermanence and allow it to temper my desire for control. I listen without judgment to others' reactions, which may be different from mine. I forgive myself and others when stress brings out our shadow selves. I feel fear fully when I am fearful. I experience sadness fully when I am sad. I allow anger fully when I am angry. I relish joy fully when I am joyful. I seek out healthy pleasures and indulge in them without guilt. I remind myself that feelings are transient states that move through me. They do not last and they do not define me, nor do my thoughts. I balance my drive for self-improvement with compassionate acceptance of myself as I am right now. I initiate contact with loved ones to let them know I hold them in my heart. I seek out with increased sensitivity those who are the most vulnerable. If possible, I share my resources with those who need help to survive. When possible, I move away from people, situations, and experiences that do not serve my highest good. I strengthen my connection to my sources of spiritual strength so that I continue to be replenished. I acknowledge the nearness of death as a key motivator for living a full life. I pray for the suffering of all beings to cease. I grieve my losses and celebrate my successes. I remain open to new ways of being, surprising sources of joy, and unanticipated discoveries every day. So that's the reading. We're gonna start Stewardship Sunday officially here. I do have a quick video of the entrance to the church for those of you who haven't seen it in a while, and for those that are really new and just haven't seen it at all. I wanted to give you this quick introduction. So let me do that. Hey, Westside, I just wanted to Hey Westside, I just wanted to show you back around the church. It's been a while. We're starting the Stewardship Campaign up, and you know, we're not coming back to the church just yet, but we are so close to getting there. And you've all done such a great job of keeping our community together in this time apart. But hey, just a quick tour around. So stewardship this year, we don't have a fireplace technically here, but I kind of figured we need to keep the hearth fire burning. You know, we've got our welcome desk, we've got our desk for the name badges and our pronoun pins. We've got this fantastic quilt put together by some of our very own. The library, still here, still plenty of books to read. One of my favorite places to sit down and relax and get to know people down there. And some of you may have noticed the ceiling tiles have been replaced and cleaned. That was one of our most requested features over the break. And you know, we really spent some time doing it right and safely, getting a scissor lift and everything. But everything is looking so great. Can't wait to have you back. So we're gonna show you around the garden, show you around some of the other places you may not have seen a bit, and we'll we'll talk about money. All right, so yeah, we're going to talk about money, but not just in the way you might be used to people talking about money. If you've been to other churches and they've talked about money and in their ways, I did that. Our stewardship works a little differently, I guess. And also they asked oh, okay. Yeah, they asked me to, why am I, sorry. I'm supposed to be in the screen. Well, whatever. It was working this morning, I promise. So I'll just keep my camera on up top. So they asked me to talk to you about stewardship, about our campaign, about our funding goals. And they asked a guy that was born and raised in the Midwest to talk to all of you about money. And my parents were born and raised in the Midwest, and their parents grew up during the Great Depression. My grandparents grew up during the Great Depression, and we learned to not talk about money from a very early age with anyone. So that's been an interesting thing to unlearn, and we'll do a little bit more of that today. So, oh, speaking of the Charlie Brown Christmas thing, hey. So first of all, a thank you. Thank you for staying with us during this time. Thank you for those of you joining us during this time. Thank you for moving forward with us. We are almost home. So obviously, we aren't opening yet. We're all still on Zoom, after all. The board is keeping an eye on the recommendations of health officials and the UUA like we have been this whole time. And I know we all want to get back to church when it's safe. And for those of you that might not be able to come back right away when we're able to reopen, the worship team and some other folks, our tech team or AV team, they're looking into ways to sort of do a hybrid service where we have the service in person, but then people can still join us online, probably on Zoom. We'll see. But yeah, if you're worried that you're not going to be able to come back with us right away, don't worry. We're not going to leave you behind. So one of the big things is the work at the building. There's different work, there's different work out there that we do as a congregation. And the garden's coming together. This is one of those things that we've actually been able to keep working on, obviously at a bit of a slower pace than we would have without the pandemic. But we've been able to get the workers in a few times safely, enough space between them, enough different projects to be working on. We've had a few volunteers able to come in safely. I know more of you wanted to volunteer, but now wasn't the time. The good news is there's still a lot of work left to be done in the garden, and there will still be a lot of work left to get done. This is going to be a continual growing project that everyone in our church can contribute to and help out with as they'd like. So if you really wanted to help out with the garden, but it just wasn't safe to do so yet, when it's safe, contact Diane Nixon. She would be happy to find some things for you to help with. And there's been a lot of other cleanup done around the church. Our staff and volunteers have been crossing off to-do list projects that have been around for a few years. And again, it's all been done slowly and safely. People have been wearing masks. People have been keeping separated. It's just been like, I don't know, 2 or 3 people in the church at a time, I think at most is at one point. The video I recorded earlier, I was the only one in the building. I had a selfie stick. That's around here somewhere. That's how I was able to record that one. And all of the videos, if you saw the videos that went out with the emails, those were all with a selfie stick at the church. I think Diane was out working in the garden at the time, but got to stay safe, right? Got to stay safe. And there's a lot of work left to be done in the building when we get back to it. And that's one of the cool things about having our own building. Now, we also had a lot of work to do to be together while we're apart. We've had, children's CRE stuff. We've had social justice projects. We had a real dinosaur come out dancing toward the beginning of this to see with the kids and everything. That's wasn't a real dinosaur. It was Nikki. It was our DLRE, Nikki Kennedy, going by and as safely as we could at the start of the pandemic, you know, at least maintaining, you know, some safe level of connection. And as I've been looking back into this and looking back on the year and looking back through what, you know, Zoom meetings we've had, you know, what photos we've had, what videos we've had, it just hit me that we owe so much to so many people, so many of you. None of this, our worship services, our children's religious education, our adults' religious education, our social justice work, the other ministries that were active during the coronavirus, none of that happened by accident. We did it all on purpose, and we couldn't have done it without you. So like I mentioned, children's religious education, we had projects that could be sent home. We had the dinosaur delivering stuff out there. We had Zoom meetings between the kids. We even were able to sort of make our Earth Day project from last year work with the seed bombs. We had some, you know, delivered some seed bombs around and had the kids kind of, you know, go do that where they could. So it hasn't been the easiest thing this year. You all know that probably better than I do. But you know, we've made the effort. All of you have made the effort. Our social justice work has continued, sometimes in person when safe, like the registering to vote here to UU the vote with the last election. And if you're not on, one of the ways that we've been doing a lot of the work has been through calling our legislators, emailing, writing letters. And if you want to get on some of those campaigns, Cindy Fountain is your contact point for that. If you're already on her list, you already know. If you want to get on the list, it's not too hard. Oh, one other volunteer opportunity I meant to mention. If, you know, since we're not going back yet, we still need people to help out with our remote services. If you're at all experienced with Zoom, if you've had to run like the family Zoom meetups during the pandemic, and you know how to like, you know, share a screen, or, you know, none of anything complicated, but if you have experience with that and you want to help out on Sunday mornings, I think it's Jeff Rodriguez you could reach out to. Definitely could use some help with the AV team. Not help because it's super complicated, but just, you know, a few more hands make for lighter work. All right, so, oh good, making good time. Sorry, I'm a high school teacher and I teach remotely, so this is very familiar. Being on here in front of Zoom and having stuff up on the board and keeping to a time limit. We don't have a bell that's going to ring, but we do have your time to respect. So I want to make sure I'm on target. So let's take a look at some of the numbers here. This is one of the things we need to talk about with stewardship, is talking about money. As much as I was raised in the Midwest to not talk about money, but talking to our finance department, talking to some of the folks on the board, we don't have a finalized budget yet because, well, we haven't voted on it as a church, because that's how we do our budget here. We all vote on it together. But the finance committee and the board have kind of put together these sort of like bare bones budgets of what if we take our initial budget from last year, from before the pandemic, and sort of move it forward to this year with, you know, cost of living adjustments for the staff, with new rates for, you know, various utilities and everything else. What would we need? And this is the thing about being a UU church is we can choose what we want to do. We can choose whatever we want to do. We can run our church however we want. There's no real hierarchy. We do have the UUA. We're a member of the UUA. We're a member of the Southern region, but really what happens with this church is what we choose to happen with this church. And the big numbers, I'll talk about some smaller numbers in a minute, but the big numbers are if we can raise $300,000 for the campaign this year, then that will fully fund every program, that will fully fund our staff, including cost of living adjustments, and I think like a small raise on top of that. I'd have to double check. And that also includes us hiring another full-time minister now, whether that will be an interim minister, a full-time contract minister, a settled minister, a developmental. There's options, and your board would love to talk to you about those options, which one you might prefer. Now, if we're not able to raise the $300,000 total, another option, a lot of options, none of this is set in stone. But if we can raise about $250,000, that would fully fund our programs, but we would be a lay-led congregation, which means that we wouldn't have a full-time minister. Now, the budget does include a significant bump to the worship team's operating budget so that we could bring in qualified speakers at ethical and competitive rates, probably 3 times a month, 2 to 3 times a month, definitely. So we wouldn't, be completely, you wouldn't be listening to members every week. You'd be listening to members at least once a month. But those are great. I've loved those in the past. The members that have spoken here before, I really liked your services. So that would be about $250,000. Now, another option that I was asked about that I didn't, I haven't had a chance to sit down with the finance people officially on yet is what if we got a part-time minister, about a half-time minister? And based on some of the hiring discussions I've been a part of over the last few years, I haven't been the one hiring people, but I've been on the board, or I've been, on some committees that were, part of that. One of the things, if you get like a half-time person, you can't just cut the rate in half exactly, because if we want to stay, sort of true to our beliefs and ethics, we need to offer benefits to a half-time employee, and half-time benefit, there's not really such a thing as half-time benefits. So we couldn't just cut the cost of a minister in half, but we would, again, this is back of the napkin math. I haven't cleared this with finance committee, so don't quote them on this and quote me on this. It would probably be like 270 or 275, 200,000 or 270,000 or 275,000 for a half-time minister, which is an option. We have all kinds of options. But a few people asked about that, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. Some of these tables, people have asked for some of this data. If you're not a numbers person, don't stress too much about this. But the UUA has sort of a recommended sort of grouping of who is donating how much. And it's broken down by sort of like 25% of our budget, right? 25% of our pledges. So last year, and obviously there's no names on this, but last year we had 6 of our folks donate about between 6,600 and 13,000 for the year. 13 of our pledge units, families, donate 3,500 to 6,500 per year. 24 of our pledge units are families, donating in the $1,800 to $3,000 range, and 62 in the $500 to $1,500 range. And the orange, that's us as Westside, and the sort of reddish is sort of where the UUA thinks like a really healthy congregation is. We don't want to rely too much on a small number of people at the top. We are very thankful for the folks, obviously, that can make that kind of pledge and help out the church in that way. But we all want to make sure that we're able to, pledge what we can. So I wouldn't stress too much about these categories this year just because of everything this year, but as you're looking toward next year and the year after, as things hopefully start to stabilize a little bit, if you're able to increase your pledge at that point, that would be fantastic. So the building costs, mortgage, insurance comes out to about a little bit less than 50,000 of that total. Personnel and salary benefits, if we end up like with a full-time minister again, that would be about 200,000 of the total. And committee budgets round out about the other 30,000-ish or so of the total. So the good news is there's not a whole lot of like things, the good and bad news is there's not a whole lot of things to cut in the budget. There are a few things here or there we could cut if we needed to and would be up to the vote of the congregation. But your board and your finance team has been, they've been very good stewards of the money that's come in. We don't have a lot of just things to cut because we're just spending money just to spend the money. So as we kind of finish up here on this, I just want to remind you, if you have any questions about this, contact me, stewardship@westsideuu. If you're ready to pledge, you can send your pledge information to finsec@westsideuu. If you send it to me, I'll just forward it on to them. no problem. And, oh, sorry. And we don't want, this is the Midwest in me. We don't want you to give till it hurts. We don't want you to give everything you have to spare, every dime, every little penny in your couch cushions. We want you to invest what you feel good about investing in. This church exists because we contribute to it, and it'll keep existing if we can keep contributing to it. Whatever we end up with, we'll do our best with. So anything you can help with would be fantastic. If you can't pledge this year, we understand. If you need to lower your pledge, you're not able to raise your pledge, we understand. We're not going to ask why. We're not going to intrude. We're just going to be grateful for what folks are able to give. The last update I have from about yesterday afternoon, by the way, I know a ton of pledges have come in since then. Well, a few, I know at least a few. We've had, but as of yesterday afternoon, we had about 22 pledges at about $70,000 total. So we paid for the mortgage. We get to keep the building. So let's, as you're able to get your pledges in, just go ahead and send them on in. We'd love to have them. And to sort of finish up real quick, at the top, I mentioned that I was born and raised in the Midwest. My parents were born and raised in the Midwest. My parents' parents, my grandparents grew up during the Great Depression. That was 90 years ago. 90 years ago, my grandparents, their parents, and pretty much everyone in the US and abroad struggled to find work. They struggled to afford food. They struggled to keep their housing. And over those 90 years, they passed down the shame and guilt of talking about money, the shame and guilt of not having money, the shame and guilt of having money when so many didn't. Like I said, it's still hard for me to talk about money to this day. It's, with anyone. 90 years. But they also passed down valuable lessons, lessons of humility, lessons of keeping your word, lessons of helping out anyone that needs help. So imagine what lessons we can pass down to our communities and families that will last the next 90 years, especially if Westside is still around for the next 25. We've been around for 25 years. If we can be around for 25 more, what lessons could we pass down? How could we change not only Fort Worth, but the wider world community if Westside is still here in 90 years? And now we'll listen to our closing hymn, Gather the Spirit, performed by Jim Scott. Thanks.
I wrote this song 30 years ago so my friend Pat Lamana could give it this contemporary message. Gather in spirit, not face to face. Let's do what we can to flatten the curve. Wash your hands often and don't touch your face. This virus is something no one deserves. Gather on Skype, gather on Zoom, gather by phone with family and friends. Gather online, but don't leave your room. Let's all stay safe until this crisis ends. Gather on Facebook, but not for too long. There's so many ways to sweeten the time. Take up crochet, write a new song, read a good book, bake brownies sublime. Gather on Skype, gather on for the scared, the sick and the poor, the lonely at home. Count all your blessings and reach out and share. Let everyone know that they're not alone. Gather in Skype, gather on Zoom, gather by phone with family and friends. Gather online, but don't leave your room. Let's all stay safe until this crisis ends.
That's a fantastic version of that song. Anyway, our closing words today are from the Reverend Edward Hale, a 19th century Unitarian minister. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Join me in our congregational closing as we extinguish our chalices. Let us go in peace, believe in peace, and create peace in our lives and in the world. May it be so, blessed be, and amen.